Hello everybody. So I've got another great free guitar lesson for y'all. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about chord boxes, which is what I have right here in front of me. Chord boxes are what new and experienced guitar players will use to play a chord that they don't know. Sure, some people can use their ears to figure out how the notes in a particular chord, but chord boxes are really simple and really easy to use, and I highly recommend that you watch this and learn how to read chord boxes. It's really simple. I'll try and break it down and keep it as easy and simple as possible, and then at the end I'll show you guys what these chords actually look like on the guitar as opposed to just on paper. But it's important that you understand chord boxes so that you can play all types of chords without having to struggle. So first thing is that you need to orientate yourself and figure out, if you're looking at this chord box, what part of the guitar is it representing? So if you watch my guitar parts video, then hopefully you remember what the nut is. In this case, here's the nut, and what the bridge is. So down here is where you will find the bridge, and up here is the nut. And if that's still confusing to you, then I have this little business card to help you guys understand how the guitar is orientated when you're looking at chord boxes. So up here is the nut, and up here is the bridge. And so again, up here in these chord boxes, this thick black line represents the nut, and then down here is the bridge. So with that, the next thing to know are the frets, the fret numbers. So each of these numbers represent which fret you're on: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes on other chords that are higher up on the neck, the first number will be a 5. And so, you'll be starting from the 5th fret. So it's something you always want to pay attention and look at to figure out where you're starting off at. Next thing to know is that each of these lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these lines represent a guitar string. The guitar has 6 strings, and they're named E, A, D, G, B, E. This E being the thickest, this E being the thinnest string. Next thing to know is what these X's and O's mean. So in the case of chord boxes, X's mean that that's a note that you want muted, or a string you want muted. You don't want any sound coming from that string. And when there's an O like this, it means you're not putting your finger on that string, but you are letting it ring out whenever you strum. You don't need a finger to get the note that you want there. You just strum it, and that's the note that you want for that chord. And then next are what these black circles mean. These dark black circles represent where you will be putting a finger in order to get that chord. So in this case, you'll be putting a finger on the 1st fret, 2nd string. For the second note, you'll be putting your finger on the 2nd fret, D string, and then finally you'll put a 3rd finger on the 3rd fret, A string. And what these numbers represent are suggestions for which fingers you should use in order to play that chord. So I've got this handy little diagram here that tells us this is finger 1, 2, 3, 4. So in the case of a C chord, you'll be using your 1st finger for this part, 2nd finger for this, and then 3rd finger for this note. For the D major chord, these will be muted. You'll want to let this one ring out, this D string ring out, and then you'll use your 1st finger here, 2nd finger, and 3rd. And you just repeat that same process to be able to play any of these other chords. And now next, I'll show you guys on my guitar what those chords actually look like, what they'll sound like when you're playing, and some of the common problems that people have whenever they're first trying to play these chords. Alrighty guys and gals, I've got my guitar out now so that I can show y'all what these chords look like in real life on an actual guitar instead of just on paper. So we'll start off with the C chord, and we'll want to remember that this thick E string right here, that one is muted. We either want to mute it or we want to skip it whenever we strum it. So this is what the C chord will look and sound like. And so to build that chord, remember we're skipping the E string. This one is played open. Next we take our 1st finger, put that down on the 1st fret of the B string. The G string is played open, and then we take our 2nd finger, put that down on the 2nd fret of the D string, and then finally we'll take our third finger and put that down on the third fret of the A string. And so it should sound something like this whenever you play it. Even if you do get this sound in, it doesn't throw it off too bad. But it just sounds cleaner if you're able to mute that or just not play that string. At first you guys will probably have some muted strings that sound something like this, where you're just getting some sounds but not quite all of them. That's okay. What you need to do is make sure you're pressing the fingers down with the tips of your fingers. If you look close, you can kind of see those grooves in my fingers that the strings have left. So that's kind of where you want the fingers to be on where you want the strings to be on your fingers, right up by your nails. And if your nails are long, then this will probably be kind of hard for you. Next, we'll do a D chord. Remember, a D chord, you skip these two strings right here, or you mute them. What I like to do is use my thumb to mute them. If you're just starting out, it might be a little difficult to reach around with your thumb. That's okay. Just try and skip these two strings whenever you're playing them. And so here on the D string, that one is open. That's the root. Put your first finger down on the second fret of the G string. Next, take your third finger, that's right, your third finger, and put that one down on the third fret of the B string. And then finally take your middle finger and tuck that down a little bit under, skip a string, and then put that one under your first finger. So it'll be right here. So it's on the second fret of the E string. And so what that'll look like is a little triangle, and this is what it should sound like. Again, if you're having some half muted stuff like this, that's okay, it happens, especially if you're just starting out. Just remember, as you put your fingers down, try and make sure you're getting a clear sound out of each of the strings with each finger you add on there to make the chord. The last one I'll show you will be the F chord, because that one's a little different just because of this chart. As you can see, it has a 1 over the E and the B string. So what that means is you'll use your first finger to cover those two strings on the first fret. Then you'll take your middle finger, put that on the second fret of the G string. Then you'll take your third finger and put that on the third fret of the A string, of the D string, sorry. And this is what that'll sound like. Now in this chart, it has you using your pinky. I usually don't use my pinky when playing the F chord. I usually just play it like this. And so that's what this one will look like. Again, remember to skip this first string, and then if you're putting your pinky down up here on the A string, then you don't need to skip it. But if you're like me and you're not putting your finger anything down on that one, then it's one you'll want to skip or mute. It's kind of tough. It's probably the tougher of these major chords. A is also a little difficult just because it's all cramped into one fret. So with an A chord, you're just putting, the only spot you're filling is the second fret. So the E string is played open. Take your pinky, put that down on the second fret of the B string. Then take your third finger, put that down on the second fret of the G string. And then lastly, take your middle finger, your second finger, and put that down on the second fret of the D string. But in the case of this A chord, you're muting this first, this E, this thick E, but this A right here, it's played open. So this here is the root, and this is what it should sound like. This one is pretty hard to get because it's super easy to end up muting this finger right here with your pinky. So definitely practice this one hard, but it's a chord that you're going to use all the time, so really recommend that it's when you get down and practice. Thanks for watching.